You're listening to The Jake Asman Show on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts. For all your car care needs, you can get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. 800-224-2004 is the number if you want to weigh in this morning here on the program. So yesterday, Rams coach Sean McVay and Peter Schrager from the NFL Network on their podcast, Flying Coach Podcast, creative name, they had Kyle Shanahan on the show, the head coach of Sean McVay's division rival in the NFC West, the head coach of the 49ers, and also a friend of this show, by the way. Kyle Shanahan on the podcast said that he was upset when he found out that the Rams had traded for Matt Stafford. Quote, "You don't want to get me started, dude. That was frustrating. I remember looking through it because everybody was telling me it was a possibility. Stafford's the man. I studied him hard coming out of college, and you always play against him, so you know how good he is. But to know he might be available and to spend 2 weeks really watching him, Sean, yeah, he's better than I realized. He was the man. He's actually underrated to me. I know how good of a guy you got. I remember Saturday, I was so stressed out, and finally we talked to someone. It was 7 p.m, and they're like, no, nothing's happening with the trade at the earliest until tomorrow. So someone told me you could finish your night. So I'm like, all right, I'm done. I put my phone down, talked to Mandy. That's his wife. I'm like, all right, let's go out to dinner. Let's have some drinks. Half an hour later, my buddy calls me and is like, I'm just telling you, if you want Stafford, you need to get a hold of him right now. I'm like, what do you mean? We just talked to people. I could sleep on this. We'll talk to him tomorrow. I'm just telling him you need to talk to him right now. And then it was all over. And then he said, about less than an hour after that, it leaked out that Stafford was going to go. So you hear all that, and you know what your reaction should be right away? The Niners cannot wait to move away from Jimmy Garoppolo. Cannot wait. They were in on Stafford, but they didn't have the resources necessary to really get that deal done. The Rams had the Goff contract they wanted to unload, so they attached extra picks. So Shanahan, maybe he wanted Stafford, but he didn't have enough time to get him. And we all know Stafford now goes to the Rams. But when you listen to those quotes I just read for you, doesn't it make it seem like the Niners have been over Garoppolo for a lot longer than people even realize? They were trying to get rid of Garoppolo this offseason. They couldn't find a taker. And then when they realized they couldn't get Stafford, their option was, well, let's move up in the draft and take Trey Lance. It has never been more clear that if Trey Lance looks like he could play right away, he's going to play sooner rather than later. I'm not going to be surprised if Trey Lance plays week 1. I'm really not. I've said that on the show before. They don't believe in Garoppolo. Shanahan thinks he's made Garoppolo the player he is, an above-average quarterback. Remember a couple years ago, 2012, Russell Wilson got drafted. Same offseason, Matt Flynn was signed for big money to go to Seattle. And a quarterback that no one really heard of, a rookie out of Wisconsin, and Russell Wilson started week 1 and never looked back. Don't you think that's kind of what's happening here? If Trey Lance plays well in the preseason, if Trey Lance looks like he's the guy, they could do way more with that offense with Trey Lance than they could Jimmy G. They just can't. Trey Lance is more of a dynamic player. He's a runner. He could do more as a two-way type of quarterback in that West Coast scheme. I'm telling you, the evidence is there. And if Trey Lance looks the part, he could be the guy and they could deal Jimmy G. And the other thing that should be considered here, what happens if someone gets hurt on another team over the summer? All of a sudden, someone calls up the Niners and says, hey, what's it going to take for Jimmy G? If someone does the old Sam Bradford Vikings deal and offers a 1 for Garoppolo, he's gone. They're not keeping him because they think he's going to get hurt anyway. By the way, the irony of a team trading for Jimmy G if their quarterback goes down in training camp when Jimmy G's biggest issue has been injuries. I actually am higher on Garoppolo than most. When he plays, they win. Now, I understand he's got the best offensive coach in the league in Shanahan. I get that. He's got a really good team. But I don't think Garoppolo is a bad quarterback. But I also think if Shanahan wants to move off of you, I tend to lean Shanahan because he knows offense more than anyone. So, everyone's reacted to those comments that Shanahan was upset when the Rams landed Stafford. Well, that's because there is a strong possibility that Garoppolo could be done in hindsight now. I mean, we know eventually he's losing the job. They used a first-round pick on a quarterback in the top 3. Traded 2 future ones to get said quarterback. So we know Lance is going to play at some point. My point here is that Lance is playing a lot quicker than people realize. You look at the rookie quarterbacks. There were 5 of them taken in the first round. We know Trevor Lawrence is starting week 1 for the Jaguars. We know Zach Wilson starting week 1 for the Jets. Trey Lance could also start week 1. It's not crazy. There's scenarios where that happens. Let's ignore Lawrence and Wilson for a moment. All right, screw them. Let's not talk about them for a moment. All right, I have plenty of time to talk about Zach Wilson throughout the year.
Plenty of time.
Plenty. Lance, Fields, Jones. Justin Fields to the Bears, Mac Jones to the Patriots. If I'm ranking which quarterbacks that were drafted in round 1 are most likely to play first, it's obviously, 1 and 2, it's Lawrence and Wilson. But at 3, I'm putting Trey Lance ahead of Justin Fields. There's too much smoke here. Justin Fields could play pretty early on as well, but the Bears have already told you no matter what, Andy Dalton's starting. And I know the Niners have said the same about Jimmy G, but actions speak louder than words. And who's more tradable this summer, Jimmy G or Andy Dalton? You know the answer if you just heard that. So Garoppolo could get dealt, and then boom, Lance is playing. And then you want to look at the other quarterback, Mac Jones. Who's the most stubborn coach in the NFL? Bill Belichick. What has Bill Belichick already said about Mac Jones? Cam's the starter. Cam's not playing backup right away. Maybe by the end of the year they make the move, but not yet. So if I'm ranking the order in which rookie quarterbacks play, it's the order in which they were drafted. Lawrence, Wilson, both playing week 1. Don't be surprised if Trey Lance plays a lot quicker than people realize. Shanahan's comments about Matt Stafford, another indication that they've been off of Jimmy G for a long time. They might say they like him and he's a great guy. We know he's handsome, all that. But there's evidence that Jimmy G could be dealt, and Trey Lance is playing a lot quicker than anyone seems to realize. Coming up next, let's talk some NBA. Keith Smith joins us. NBA Finals talk next.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Message and data